Welcome to the Innovators Insider Podcast. My name is Mike the Professor. I'm joined by Richard Doyle here, the user group guy. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great. Mike, how are you?
I am just ducky.
Ducky, yeah, that's a little teaser onto something that we've got later on in the show, right?
That's right.
By the way, we've got a great show today. We're going to be talking about a lot of cool things. We're going to start off talking about the benefits of Onshape versus maybe some other CAD systems that are out there.
Yeah,
we've got a couple of great.
That's right. Yeah, exactly.
Yep. Couple of great guests are going to help us out, and then we've got a special guest that's going to end the show for us today. We're going to be talking about watches that don't tell time. So I hope our listeners definitely will stick around for that. So if we're ready to get started, Michael, why don't you bring on our first guest? Let's talk about some of the great things about Onshape.
Yeah, let's welcome back a longtime friend and associate, Chad Stoltzfus. How are you today?
Hey, guys. I'm doing well. How are you?
Fantastic. Yep. Great to see you, Chad.
Chad, you work at Premier Custom Built. Tell us, just remind the viewers, what your company does and why you're here.
Yeah, we at Premier Custom Built, we make high-end custom cabinetry to serve design firms across the country. We work with highly custom designs for clients, all the way up to people like Eli Manning. We'll design kitchens for them. And we started using Onshape about 5 years ago because we were really attracted to what Onshape had to offer to us with FeatureScript. We needed a CAD system that was as customizable as we are, as our product is. And so we started working in FeatureScript, and that's what I've been doing for the past 5 years. And I guess that's why I'm here.
Exactly. We're so happy that you're here too, Chad, because you're part of what makes Onshape really special and unique. You are, you're labeling yourself here as a FeatureScript developer. FeatureScript is the programming language that builds all of the cool shapes inside of Onshape, and it's open source and it can be enabled so that you as an end customer can do whatever you want with it. So you can make repeatable processes, you can do things faster and more reliably. I think is probably the way of summing it up, right?
Yeah, I would say so. I think, when I explain our use case to other people, it's really easy to look at some of the stuff that we share and just be like, oh, well, you were able to develop that custom feature. That's kind of a you thing. That's a niche market, right? But I think that's the entire point, is that FeatureScript is something that can be made for anyone's needs, and you can tailor it to function the way that you want it to. And you start to create this workflow, this CAD process that works for you and makes sense for you. That's the whole point.
Absolutely.
So, yeah, Chad, you talked about, you just mentioned that, what you do with FeatureScript is very unique to you and your company. Do you have something that you can show us, or an example of a project that might be unique to your company?
Yeah, for sure. And let me set this up with a little bit of context. The cabinet industry is pretty traditional. We have a lot of people who we used to work with a 2D CAD system, and a lot of the people who were working with that 2D CAD system were actually cabinet makers first, and then became in a pseudo engineer type of role. And so when we wanted to transition over to 3D, we wanted some way to, help these cabinet makers transition into 3D when they didn't even have an engineering background. And that's kind of something that we've been able to do with FeatureScript, is create kind of an experience and a UI that makes sense for a cabinet maker. They don't have to learn 3D modeling. When we started out making custom features, we asked ourselves the questions, are we making these custom features for modelers, or are we making these custom features for cabinet makers? And ultimately, we lean towards cabinet makers. And as we've been training them, we've been able to make more and more complex processes. But that's kind of how this whole thing started out. And then there's some of the obvious benefits with FeatureScript and Onshape as a whole. I know you're talking about configurations later today, but the ability to fit a specification into Onshape, to treat Onshape as not just a collection of models, but it's a database for your specifications. And that's kind of what we've done with FeatureScript. And so if I can show you guys over here, let's go with a window. There we go. So a way that we can demonstrate this is by looking at one of our cabinets. So just a very basic cabinet specification that we have here. But as a cabinet maker, I might look at that and say, hey, I want to put a partition in here. Now, a couple of things you can see we've already done is there's a custom table over on the right side. All of these parts, as you're modeling them, are being measured in real time. So if I do something like a move face, you can see that the return is changing in thickness. The right return is changing in thickness as I'm editing it in real time. So that's one of the things that we do. We have this entire system existing in the background, all built with FeatureScript, that is measuring these parts. There's metadata associated with these parts. If I go in here and I decide that I want to do, let's say, a split, I'll split this part with, let's just say, a mate connector. You can see that it says now there are 2 top floors in this cabinet. Really great. So one of the things that does is that eliminates a couple of opportunities for human error, right? If you have 1 floor and you turn it into 2, well, now I don't have to remember to go back to my paperwork and list another floor. That's just done automatically. So that whole process of quantity, keeping track of what sizes things are, we don't have to type that out manually anymore. That is recorded the moment that you make your model. Now, when we get into modifying this cabinet, as a cabinet maker, I look at this and I say, I want to put a partition in there. Well, it's as simple as going into the search tools and using the partition custom feature. And so here we're looking at very familiar terminology for Premiere Custom Build, floors, thickness. Do I have 1 floor? Do I have 2 floors? In this case, I have 2 floors. So I can select those 2 floors and select the front of one of those floors. That's going to tell me what to offset the front of my partition from. But before I do that, as I add in this partition, pay close attention to the custom table on the right side, because what happens when you put a partition in a cabinet is it's going to split those shelves. But not only is it going to split those shelves, it's also going to add an 1/8 of an inch clearance to all of those shelves. And so you can see it adds in the shelves. I can also go in here, change the thickness. And as I change the thickness of the partition, you can see the shelves are going to change in their height, because we measure the length of the shelves in that direction. It's fine. But you can see that the shelves are changing as I change the thickness of the partition. If I decide to offset the partition from a particular side of the cabinet, you can see that the shelves lengths update as the partition moves along. And finally, if I take a look at the partition itself, you can see that it adds that clearance to those shelves. So now what happens is, as I'm modeling a cabinet, I have to remember way less than what I had to remember before. Because before, in a traditional 3D CAD system, I would have to know to add that 1/8 of an inch in there. But we're able to build the specification of our product directly into the tools that our project managers are using, which I think that's something that you just can't do with any 3D CAD system. I'd be surprised if there's another option out there like that.
This is incredible. Yeah, it's so amazing to see all the different tools that you've used to put this together. With the custom table here on the right side is a beautiful way of interacting and verifying what's going on, and it looks like you can even filter it with different aspects. It's really well done. I haven't seen this in a little while, so it's evolving based on how you discover what's available in Onshape. So it's amazing to see. I love it.
Yep, great stuff.
Great. So that's instance number 1 of Can Your CAD Do This?
Yes, Onshape can.
Chad, thank you so much for showing us a little bit about this. For anybody that wants to get in the FeatureScript, do you have any tips or tricks or pointers?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. There's a ton of documentation on Onshape's end available for you to look at custom features. There's the Learning Center, which they actually recently released a module for FeatureScript. I've looked at it a little bit myself. It's really well done. There's also plenty of documentation available. There's the standard library documentation. All that's accessible through Onshape's website. But I would also say there's two kind of hidden ways of learning FeatureScript. And the first way would be to look at the standard library documentation itself. Like you said, Mike, it's actually open source. So you can actually look and see all of the code that's used to make Onshape features that you use today. So Onshape's extrude, that code is available. You can look at it and see how Onshape built the extrude feature, and you can take little aspects from that and maybe use it in a custom feature you're working on. Additionally, if you go to public documents in Onshape, those public documents, if there are feature scripts in there, which you can find those either on Onshape's forums, I believe a couple are highlighted on Onshape's website as well. You can go through that code. It's all open source and it's all under the MIT license, so you can copy the document, you can work on it, you can alter the code to fit a specific need, or you can copy little snippets here and there, and you can look at some best practices that Onshape users are using when making custom features. So those are definitely some of the resources that I used. But yeah, and always I'm lurking on the forums. If you ever have questions, feel free to reach out.
That's much.
Yep. You stole my thunder there, Chad. I was just going to bring that up. Make sure you visit the Onshape forums, because there are a lot of folks like Chad and Evan Reese, just to name a couple, that are very, very helpful when it comes to learning just about anything, and especially FeatureScript with these folks. So yeah, Chad, it's been great having you back. I think we'll probably have you on the show as much as you'll allow us. So we certainly thank you.
Thanks.
Yeah, it's great to be back here. Good to see you guys.
Yeah. Well, it's always good to see Chad, and every time he impresses.
Absolutely. I mean, I don't have a programming bone in my entire body, but it's just so fascinating and so much fun to watch the stuff that these folks are putting out. It's just amazing.
Yeah.
So that was, like you say, the first little piece of Can Your CAD Do This? We're going to talk about a couple more pieces here, and we're going to bring in another special guest, our old friend Nacho Martos.
Hey, Nacho.
Hey, Nacho.
Hey, everyone.
Welcome back to the show. Hey, why don't you real quick just tell everybody who you are and what you do there at Onshape, and then we'll get started with this.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. I'm coming at you today from the PTC HQ today. I'm one of the engineers that works with the Onshape technical services, so I help support customers and our product every day. And today I wanted to show off one of the biggest pieces of functionality that we released in the 151 or our latest release of Onshape, that builds on the current functionality that we have around branching and merging. So I can share my screen here, and let's see. Yeah. And we can take a peek at what this tool can do. Can you guys see my screen right now?
I'm seeing your window of StreamYard, so maybe you just need to pick a different window.
There we go. All right, awesome. So for today's demo, I'm going to use this chess set. If you did watch the What's New, you might have already gotten a peek at this. But I want to talk a little bit about how the new functionality really improves what branching and merging was doing, and how it gives it a lot more heft in the way that we actually run this operation. For those of you that might not be aware, Onshape has a branch and merge functionality very similar to what Git and GitHub have developed in the way that we can generate versions and bring different pieces of design ideology together and work on them in parallel. So it can be very, very useful when we're iterating and collaborating with people that might have different approaches to solving problems, or where we might want to do some testing aside from what we're immediately working with. In the past state of the branch and merging function, you would select a parallel branch where you would just merge it in, and Onshape would blindly just make some changes to your main workspace where you might be doing some work. Now, that was very useful for a lot of different events, but very often you would find yourself thinking, hey, I just want a small part to come forwards from that branch instead of the entire design that I've made across all tabs in my Onshape document, which can be quite hefty. So what we've developed here is a new merge panel. And this is a high level allows you to firstly define what type of strategy you want to be working with when you're making the merge. So at a high level, you can get up to 3 tabs, starting with the most conservative, which will keep most of your changes in your current branch and just bringing the new stuff from that other branch that you're merging from. The middle of the pack would be what is most similar, or what at least I think of as the conventional merge tool that Onshape has always had, which takes whatever you had in that split branch and it will just bring it into your working space. And the last one is a more aggressive one, which will take all the changes from that branch and start substituting stuff into your main branch, which is a little bit more aggressive. Now, what I really like about this tool is that we've also added pieces of UI that really help you contextualize what you're doing. For example, you can now compare directly to that branch that you're thinking about merging with. So you can open up a new tab and say, hey, I want to compare how these changes are going to affect my design more pointedly. So instead of having to go and do this as a secondary operation, you can now access this panel right from the merge tool, which can be very handy when you're trying to contextualize the change. Once we've added context, we might actually want to define a slightly different strategy from any of the 3 that have been posed in front of us. So I might want to have an aggressive strategy, but I might not want to change everything. So maybe I'll keep my assembly the same, but I'll substitute all of my pieces. As I execute that merge, now Onshape is going to change all of the piece part designs that I've told it to merge, but it's not changing my assembly. Now, if I wanted to execute a secondary change where only the assembly is changed, we can now go ahead and make that as a second substitution. And then, well, then actually I need to go in here and then replace this guy. There we go. And then once you're more aggressive with the change, now you can bring forwards that assembly. What this fundamentally lets the users do is really decide what they want to bring into their new working space and what to leave behind. So you fundamentally have a lot more power when you're using these branches and in the way that you can use them to iterate. Because before, if you were iterating in a branch and you spent a lot of time really nailing something down and getting it perfect, you might run into the problem where someone else had been working in your main workspace, and now the changes that you want to bring in might not totally fit what has been happening in that main workspace. This allows you to do that way more selectively and really empowers you to leverage the branches in ways that were impossible before.
Well, that takes branching, emerging from checkers to chess for sure, Nacho. This is a very powerful way of dealing with the data and removes a lot of the roadblocks. So,
yeah. And the new methodology there is great because, you know, I've seen the comments in the forums. In fact, I think I saw one just the other day that somebody said that merging sometimes scared them, you know, because they weren't exactly 100% sure what was going to happen with that. And now with the selective merge, he's not afraid anymore. So that's fantastic. So Michael, we've got something else that you're going to talk about here too. That's I wouldn't say it's unique to Onshape, but I bet you can tell us why Onshape makes it better.
It's certainly unique the way we did it. But thanks again, Nacho. I'll put you back in the green room. All right. So let me share. Let's see, which is the best window? This one. All right. So you can see my Onshape account now, right?
You bet.
All right. So I'm just going to go down here. I have the security window. And in fact, we'll go to the assembly. So pretty basic kind of security window that you'd find at a, well, maybe not a bank. This would be kind of a bank in the bad neighborhood, perhaps. But, you know, maybe, you know, it's a security window, right? And there are different options that you might have for dealing with that security window, right? Now, of course, you know, I have, you know, when I buy a frame, right, I might have a 25-inch by 35-inch by 24-inch counter depth. Right? And you're seeing it's changing very quickly. And you see I have this really nice kind of set of glazing here for the glass, right? Here's UL level 1 glass, and we'll let that update, and there it is. It's a little thinner, but if we go up to level 8, we're going to get, it's much thicker, right? So it's much more impenetrable to, attack or whatever might be happening here that this window is protecting against. Do we want a handle or not? Do we need a deal tray to pass the winnings through, right? If you're at the cashier at the casino, right? You need to, get.
Yep. I'm there collecting my winnings all the time.
Exactly. Every day. So let's, how did we get to this point? This only took me an hour to build this whole thing with the interface and the assembly. Why is it that easy? Well, here's a part studio. It's something called configurations is what we're doing. And, lots of CAD systems have configurations or parameters or whatever they want to call it, design tables, whatever it might be. But this is the part studio in which I designed all of the pieces of the security window. Look at the feature list, 38 features. Most, there's like 4 that aren't even real because it's like these right here. And it's one sketch. Well, not just one, several sketches. We have a sketch for the basic size, right? A sketch for, the inner kind of layout where we're going to part out some things. Another sketch for the top of the counter and, things like that. Very basic. This is very elementary, kind of.
And all happening in one part studio.
In one part studio. That's the key. So the reason why that's the key is because here's our configuration manager over here on the side. And instead of having to go to Excel or do one kind of set of parameters at a time, like, in other CAD systems, you could do the things I was doing a little bit, not all of it. But you could with additional extensions and things that you buy third party. But here in one sketch, I'm able to take that parameter, that variable for height, and attach it to all these different dimensions. Same thing with the width, depth. And these are, I can edit the definition of that. You can see that it actually has a default value, minimum and maximum as well. So you can have, integer values that are acceptable, right? For the glazing, remember UL level 1, here's the different calculations that are taking place to get that level of thickness of glass. If we have a deal tray, we need to suppress and unsuppress this big cutout here with this flap of sheet metal here. By the way, all the sheet metal works, right?
As it should. Yep.
Yeah, as it should. I get all my variables. Actually, the variables are already there. I don't need them there. And finally, the thickness. I can control the gauge thickness of the sheet metal in one go here as well. And that's all in one part studio. Yep. And then I put it together in the assembly. And in the assembly, that's where you can go in and change the, which part goes with what based on which value, essentially. So that's the next step. And from that, you're able to make drawings and exploded views, right? So you can see, here's the mapping, essentially, of how to make these map to one another. And look it's even smart enough to change the part number. So if I change this to UL level 3 glass and it's 30, well, 30 is not available, right? 16 to 24. So I'll say 16. We're getting the right names for parts as we're going through this. Hopefully, if I've set that correctly, but the names of the parts in the BOM might show it a little bit better. But each of these names can be set as you work through this. Finally, the exploded views that go into this, here's like one set of exploded views for assembling the handle in the place. And all those will still work if you change the configuration. So I only had to set up the exploded view system once for every single possible permutation, of this device, which is a huge time saver. And of course you get your drawings. So that's really configurations in a nutshell. Of course, you can make detailed drawings of each set of configurations and QR codes. So I dare you to QR code this and see what happens if you're watching the show. Let me make sure this is public. Yep, anyone with the link. Yep, anyone the link can view. So go ahead, take a picture of that QR code and see what happens. Can your CAD system do that?
Outstanding. Configurations on steroids. I absolutely love it.
Exactly. Let me stop that. Did I stop the show? Right.
Yes, you did. Yep, great. It looks good. You look great on screen there, buddy.
Thank you. How do you like my shirt?
I love your shirt. Yeah, I kind of went basic brown today. I don't know why I did that. Maybe it's because I haven't done laundry in a couple of weeks. Anyway, well, we've got one more little piece of stuff to look at here, and it's something that's I think people think is pretty important. Let's talk about the cost to get going.
You had to bring
how that works. Well, yeah, I don't like to talk about money, but sometimes we have to. Yeah. So let me preface this by saying I'm going to give a really brief overview of what you can find in this ebook. Sticker Shock: The Invisible Costs of CAD, and we'll go ahead and we'll throw that up on the screen. You can copy that URL. We'll also put it into the show notes. So I kind of went through the guide here and pulled out some of the pertinent information. So let me pop over to where I'm supposed to be here. So let's take a look at this. So the first thing you're going to think about when starting with a CAD system, you want to get into CAD. Maybe you've got a business that's starting up, or you want to be a YouTube star and use CAD to create things and sell things and talk about things. The first thing you're going to need to look at is some equipment. Now, most of the other CAD systems out there, we're talking about mid-range CAD systems out here, require a computer or laptop with a minimum of a 64-bit processor, 16 gigabytes of RAM, which I can tell you right now is not going to be enough. You should get more than that. You'll need some sort of certified graphics cards, which, by the way, change every now and then. And then your operating system must be Windows 10 or higher. So let's take a look. I actually priced out some of these things, went to a couple of the top computer manufacturers' website. All of them have a little configurator, so I kind of plugged in these minimums, and what I came up with was a range of about $1,200 to $2,900. Now that's the minimum requirements, and I suspect that most people that are trying to run a powerful CAD system are going to want something a little bit more than that. So you're looking at over $3,000 just to get started. Now, if you're going to run PDM, if you've got a big company, and we're going to assume at this point that you are, and we'll talk about individual usage later. But if you're going to run product data management, you're going to need a server to run that. It's a separate program, and you're going to have to spend some money on that. We looked around, and those server prices are pretty high. We're talking about $8,000 each.
Yeah.
Now we've got our equipment in place. We're ready to go. Now we have to buy our software. So we have to buy our CAD, right? That's the first thing. So we're looking at about $4,000 for that. But that doesn't include the maintenance fee, which you'll pay for that first year, and that you'll continue to pay every year as long as you're using that software. As long as you want the benefits of upgrades and support, you're going to have to keep paying that fee every year. In addition, you're going to need some more software. So you're going to have to, if you're going to run PDM, like I said, you're going to have to buy that PDM software. So you're looking at another $1,900 or so, depending on your version. If you have more users than you have licenses, and you want to do something like floating, so that only that number of licenses can be used at one time, you have to pay a floating license fee, and we're looking at about anywhere from $2,000 to $4,000 for that. And then you're going to have your server software for your PDM, and we're talking about things like Microsoft SQL. So you're looking at another $8,000. So we're looking at a lot of money just to get started here, and that can be pretty daunting. It also doesn't include some of the hidden costs that come with file-based CAD. It crashes. It does. I mean, it just happens. It happened to me. It happened to you. It's probably happened to just about everybody. It crashes more for some people and less for other people, but all file-based CAD will crash eventually. Sometimes the result of that crash can also be data corruption. So your files can become corrupted. You can spend some time recreating those files. Maybe you can send them off to your support representative. Maybe they can fix those, but you'll probably wait a couple of days. So you've lost some time there. And then there's the extra work that comes with installation. You have to worry about upgrades every year. You have to download big upgrade files and then push them out to your entire company. Hardware maintenance gets to be an issue as well. I mentioned graphics cards earlier. They fall out of favor with some CAD software and have to be replaced. So there are a lot of hidden costs that I can't actually put a dollar figure on, but you know they're there. So let's talk about Onshape, and I'm going to talk about this in the because of my story. So when I semi-retired out here into Las Vegas, one of the things that I really wanted to do was design my tiny house. And so I started looking at Onshape because I knew that was something that that was good. I knew the founders of the company. I thought, well, let's take a look. So the system requirements were really easy. Any device with a web browser. There was no minimum RAM requirement. Onboard graphics work just fine, or you can go with a higher end card to get a little bit more graphics performance. And it also worked on any operating system. And when I looked at the price, depending on the version that you buy, you're looking at about $200 for this kind of a computer. Now, since I've been in the business for a long, long time, I wanted to get something a little bit more powerful. So I actually went to a used computer store and spent $250 on my computer that I was running Onshape with. So then you have to buy, you have to set up your account. You don't buy Onshape software. You open an account, and you open a web account, and you log in and you start using your Onshape. It's just like that. There's no installation, nothing to download. It's just there. It's waiting for you as soon as you sign that contract. And that'll cost you, depending on the version that you're looking at, roughly $3,000 a year. But there will be no continuing maintenance costs. All the maintenance is included in that subscription price every single year. All of the updates every 3 weeks are also included in that. There's nothing extra. You pay your subscription price, you get full access to your Onshape. Whoops, we went the wrong way.
I love this whiteboard session you're giving us. You're really
like that. I put a lot of thought into this, Michael. So what additional software do we need to buy? None, because with Onshape, your PDM it's built right in. So we're talking about $0 there.
Yeah.
So let's do a quick comparison. Let's call it the other CAD. So our equipment price was around $2,050. Probably going to be higher than that, but that's the minimum we're going to spend. We're looking at software for $4,000, and then your hidden costs. Again, I can't put a dollar figure to that. Your hourly rate is probably much, much higher than my hourly rate. So it depends on your company and your position in the company. But that can get pretty expensive with, crashes and redoing work, losing files, missing files. There's just a lot of variation in those hidden costs. I got started with Onshape for about $250 for my equipment. I would have spent the $3,000 on the software, but at the time I got a pro trial because I know people in high places, so I didn't actually have to spend that money. And then I got hired by the company, so I get to use it for free anyway. But I certainly would have dropped that $3,000 because it would have been worth it. We're looking at about at $200, $225 a month to fulfill my dream of designing my tiny house. And of course, there are no hidden costs with Onshape. Totals. We're looking at about $6,000 for the other CAD, and just about a little less or a little more than half of that to get started with Onshape. So,
yeah, that's bare minimum too.
We're talking bare minimums here. And again, I want to reiterate, I'm doing a high level, kind of a high level look at this. If you really, really want to get the skinny on the hidden cost of CAD, I highly encourage you to go ahead and download this ebook and take a look at it. It's very comprehensive, very well done, and kudos to the folks that put it together.
Well, thank you, Richard.
You bet. So costs are important, and I think Onshape beats the other CAD when it comes to that. Comes to those costs. So.
Can your CAD do this? I think the answer is
no, probably not. I think we've shown a lot of things that our CAD can do that maybe your CAD cannot do. So
yeah, and of course we're always improving too, right?
Oh, absolutely.
We don't have everything, right? Yep. So we need to be cognizant of that, but it's the things that we have are pretty impossible to do in other systems. Yep. That's really the point here.
Well, and we didn't even talk about things like follow mode and the collaboration, that's available with Onshape, how you can do enhancement requests, how your technical support is local.
Yeah.
You know, one place for technical support, the 3-week updates, which, you know, I'll go ahead and give a plug for our live broadcasts. When that update comes out, Michael and I jump on YouTube and LinkedIn, and we go through and give our commentary and talk about some of our new favorite features and functionality. So I hope you'll join us for that.
Yeah, definitely. Shameless plug, like, subscribe. You got to subscribe so that way you get the notifications for the live streams when we do them, because you never know which day it's going to come out, right? You know, the way so
you just sit on that F5 button about, you know, roughly every 3 weeks and look for that forum post, and everybody knows what's going on right there. So, well, that was great, you know, and thanks to Chad for talking about FeatureScript, and Nacho, amazing presentations there. Michael, the configurations are just awesome. I hope our viewers and listeners got a really good sense of some of the amazing things that Onshape can do. And if you haven't taken a look at it, by all means do. You can sign up for a free trial. We have the free plan, all kinds of ways to get started with Onshape, and you can do it pretty cheap.
Yeah,
according to my numbers. So we have a really special guest joining us right now. This kind of came to us, kind of dropped in our lap. We want to thank Supriya and Alexis for this, for helping us to set this up. We are going to be talking about watches that don't tell time. So let's bring in Kevin Bertolero. Sorry about that. I almost messed up that last name. Kevin, thanks for joining us. Welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks, Richard. Yeah, thanks for having me on. I definitely love Onshape, and everything you guys have been saying, besides a lot of the technical stuff, because I don't have a technical background, is why I'm in it and why I like using the software.
You were telling us in the green room, I love saying that, that you're actually visiting FarmBots right now. And we had Rory on the show several episodes ago. He did a great interview for us. We love FarmBot there.
Yeah,
I understand Rory owns one of your watches.
He does. Yeah, he's got I think our most premium watch to date. It's like a stainless steel watch with a little magnetic gold duck that can sit in it.
Well, so why don't you tell us about your watches, Kevin? Tell us a little bit about yourself, about your company, the watches, why you did this. What's behind it all?
Yeah, there's a lot there for sure. I mean, it's like 8 months of stewing that led to this thing, but I wanted to create something, and I kind of was a little burnt out from working a supply chain job where time is super important and tracked and causes a lot of anxiety. And through the pandemic and COVID, that was kind of intensified. Basically, like, running supply chain for perishable product is really tough. Everything has an expiration date. You got to respect cold chain. And so I felt like my time was like way too structured. And so there's kind of that in the background. I was also just doing a lot of this kind of like therapy called EMDR or IFS, which is like internal family systems. And it uses this process of EMDR, which is eye movement desensitization and reprocessing, that essentially gets you into like a subconscious state. And you end up connecting with like your inner child or your true and authentic self as a way to like heal and unburden and become a more relaxed or integrated person, whatever the pitch is there. But I was kind of doing this and wanting to channel my creative side, and the kind of idea of a cute duck watch came to me. I imagined just like an Apple Watch, but like take all the technology out and just put like a little duck on top. And that's kind of what I did. So Rory, my buddy here at FarmBot, I'm in his warehouse. He had like a 3D printer, a Formlabs 2 that he got a couple years ago for running prototypes here. And so I was like, hey, dude, can I use your 3D printer and make some of these duck watches and put them on TikTok? So I designed, like a version 1 printed out some little ducks and painted them, and made like a little. I was first going to put them in a pond, but then I put them in a pool because the shape was more in line with the like aesthetic of an Apple Watch. And I just like posted it on TikTok, and it kind of blew up the first video. People really liked seeing the design process because I was showing them Onshape. My first video was like very Onshape forward because I thought people would be interested in the full design process. Like, you get a lot of people who show parts of their process or show like final product. And I come from kind of like a maker background, so I'm always curious of how people are making things. So I wanted to show people like, look, I had this funny idea. I can modify it if you're interested or if it resonates. And I'm showing you like, I had this idea and then I changed my idea because I thought it'd be cuter doing it this way. Now, what do you guys think? And people really were into it. People were really into it.
Yeah, it kind of reminds me of like the sand kind of rake Zen garden kind of thing.
Yeah.
Wrist, you know, you don't have to carry around like a box with sand and rocks and rakes and stuff. This is
So I'm wearing one just for people to check out. I don't know.
That's beautiful.
That's it. This is like the latest iteration, if you will. So it's a pool, and you've got some magnetic little duckies in there. There's a little duck right there. He's pretty cute.
That just blew me away. I did not know they were removable. Okay,
that's awesome. Yeah. So that's
awesome right there.
Mm-hmm. Yep. Huge part of the vision is kind of like, you know, you're pairing people who want to restructure or reshape their relationship with time because maybe, like me, they're tired of being whipped by the clock and just want a different association with time. And so, like, a lot of people have this habit of like looking at their wrist and then being anxious. So instead of like looking at your wrist and being anxious, you look at your wrist and you see this thing. And then like, I'm also borrowing from the kind of like fidget. I don't know if you guys are like in touch with the kind of whole fidget spinners and those pop bubbles. They're just people
rubbing stones were popular when I was younger.
Yep. People love something tactile to kind of ease their mental anxieties, or just to like, I don't know, people just love using their hands and stimulating themselves. I think some people call it like stimming or fidgeting. But the idea is like it's a fidgety thing, so you can kind of like clack the ducks in there or like put them other places. But then it's also social. So like if somebody else has ducks that you like and you have ducks that they like, you can do a little swap. So the idea is to kind of like you can build a community around it, and you can also just make charms that match your like individual personality.
Well, I am so glad we had you on the show here today because, you know, I was checking out your website and I was checking out some of the designs and stuff. I absolutely love them. I think I love the little blurb where you talk about, you know, it's just fun. You look down at your wrist and it's fun, but it goes much deeper than that for you and probably for a lot of other people as well. And I really appreciate, you know, the thought that you've put in behind this and expressing those thoughts to us today for our audience so that they can take a look at these watches and get a better understanding of where you're coming from and why they were developed in the first place. So, so you use ducks a lot. Do you have any plans to use any other animals going forward? Or?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I try to create like a platform, which sounds cheesy because it's just like what everybody tries to do. It's not a product, it's a platform. No. Basically the IP is a trademark called Watches That Don't Tell Time. And that leaves it, oh nice, thanks. It leaves it open for anything that doesn't tell time that can be on your wrist or even a pocket watch. And so like an early prototype I did was with a friend who loved food. And so we made like a tiny little bento box and it had tiny little sashimi and like a tiny little wasabi and a tiny little seaweed salad and tiny little sushi rolls. And it was just like a cute little bento box that she wore on her wrist. And that was a watch that also didn't tell time. That had nothing to do with ducks.
I want a little tiny poker table.
Oh, a poker table.
Oh, it just
Yeah,
flashed
that'd
into
be
my
cool.
head. I thought that'd be the coolest thing that I could turn my wrist and look at.
Yeah, you're in Vegas, yeah?
Yeah, you
So,
betcha. Wow.
Yeah. I think I was also really inspired by everything happened. I like dabble in crypto and NFTs. And so I was really inspired in some ways, but also really turned off in a lot of other ways by the whole NFT movement. Like you had a lot of cool kind of semi-generative art, and the kind of like 10,000 permutations of this avatar, which is kind of a cool idea. But then at the end of the day, it's like, what do you have? So my one vision I have is like a semi-generative art project, but that there are physical assets tied to it, which would be like a cool watch.
Yep.
And at some point, you know, we'll do like solid gold ducks and a solid gold watch, and then your NFT asset will be a
yeah, it makes sense.
currency backed asset.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I think our society is moving towards this kind of like really personalized, individualized expression, as manufacturing catches up to that, as lead times between design and production shrink and shrink and shrink. The companies that are going to win, I think, are the ones that are going to help people create the specific things that they want on a short time frame that can be unique to them.
Yep.
And I think Onshape fits into that perfectly. Super collaborative, highly configurable, and like you said, the cost to entry is so low. I was one of my favorite uses of Onshape. I was teaching like an intro to 3D printing class at the San Luis Obispo Makerspace here in town. And we were partnering with charter schools to do like kind of some STEM or STEAM, science, technology, I don't know, engineering, art, math, like supplementing some charter school education. So I was just introing this group of kids into 3D printing, but I wanted them to see the full design process. So it's like, it would be great if I could get them in front of a computer and get them comfortable with designing in CAD. And they're pretty smart kids, but you know, they're like ranging from 7 to 12 or something like that, 6 to 10. And it was great. We had a bunch of computers, and like you're saying, none of them had CAD programs on them. Who knows if they could have even run a sophisticated CAD program, but they all had the internet. So, you know, you sit down 20 kids in front of a computer, and you can have them all log into Onshape, create an account, and you can kind of like do the collaboration mode or project the steps that they will then follow along. And then you have like 8-year-olds in a CAD program, and they're using the text tool, and they're typing out their name, and they're hitting the extrude button, and now they have a little like 3D printable STL file that they can run through the printer, and they type their name out in a CAD program, and then they get to watch the 3D printer print their name out, and then they have like a little keychain with their name on it, and they loved it. They loved it.
They get to design it, they get to build it, they get to hold it. That's perfect. Just perfect. Yep. So you also have a YouTube channel, and we'll go ahead and throw that up there. Well, it says you do.
Well, you have a TikTok, that's sure. I signed up.
I have a TikTok. Yeah.
Oh, it's yeah. No, I hit the wrong website. Sorry about that. I took that out of there.
No, you do have a TikTok though, which I subscribed to today. Is the very first TikTok subscriber that I've made. So
yeah, I'm excited to see Onshape get on a TikTok, because I think there's a lot of high school kids out there whose teachers are having them do CAD, and they're using Onshape, and they're like eager to see how CAD can be helpful to them in achieving the things that they want to achieve in their life. And so that's something I've seen a lot in the comments of like TikTok videos I've made. People are like, is that Onshape I see you using? Crazy. I didn't know that you could make something with this. It's so hard. And I'm like, yeah, I mean, it takes some time, but it's not that hard. Like I made a duck in less than 20 features, which is kind of wild. It's just like 3 shapes.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah. So, yeah, also shameless plug here. Anybody who also loves Onshape, I made a coupon for both my Etsy and my website, Onshape20. You throw that in and it'll get you 20% off any of my products. So if you love Onshape, we love you.
Awesome. That's amazing. Thank you for that. And
for sure.
It's a really cool design. It's beautiful. It's cute. And it helps. It's just something that helps. And
they don't have crystals that I can break. That's, Kevin, I haven't worn a watch for 25 years because I have a habit of breaking the crystals.
And, the movement, the like crystal movement,
the crystal face.
Yeah. Open face.
I run into a lot of things. But I could see myself wearing one of your watches because it doesn't tell time. And if I did bump up against it, it's not going to break. The ducks might fall out. And then I can take a little break and pick them up and put them back in. So,
Yep. Exactly. You get it, Rich.
I do. Well, Kevin, it's been great having you on the show. We really, really appreciate you taking the time. Make sure you say hi to Rory for us. I know he's probably on site there somewhere. And once again, we'll go ahead and we'll put up the website. Visit watchesthatdon'ttelltime.com. Take a look at what he's got for sale there, and go ahead and buy a watch.
Yeah, thanks, guys. Couldn't have done it without you. I really love your guys' software.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Let's bring back the rest of everybody to have a quick hello before we wrap up.
You betcha. God, what a great show, huh?
Yeah. All right, Nacho, there you are. Chad. Wow, that was a great show. I really appreciate everybody taking a few minutes out of the day to share their stories and experience here with us. And I really, we got to do the Onshape wave.
Yep.
It's hard to get it like in frame, but yeah.
There you go. Yeah, I have to move it to an unnatural position here.
Yeah. But much appreciated. Thanks for joining us today. Next, we got a bunch of good stuff coming. I don't want to spill any trade secrets, but we have some cool shows coming. So definitely pay attention for that. And
hit the like button for us and subscribe so you don't miss an episode.
All right.
Fantastic.
See you all later.